Hi, hello everyone. Well, welcome back again as we continue our conversation on conscious bias. Again, my name is Susuana Olatunji Komolafe, and I'm your host, facilitating this conversation on conscious bias, which is an ideology, a concept that I'm championing in changing the narrative in our classrooms, places of work, in our community, within our society, taking accountability of all our biases and prejudice, and how to address it to tackle the issue of racism. And not just racism, but how we dialogue together. So, we are currently talking about the key aspect of conscious bias. We have three things we've identified that we're going to talk about, which one of them is gender, race, and religion. So those are the three things we're going to focus on as part of the key areas of conscious bias. And you're all welcome to drop your comments, engage in this conversation loud and clear through your comments and through your questions. A while ago, I reviewed one of the responses and questions that was on LinkedIn, and I'll do so. If you drop your comments and it catches my attention and I feel something I would like to share, I'll bring it to light on my live conversation. So when we talk about conscious bias, gender representation starts stand out as it stands out as one of the most visible and impactful dimension that we can take. Biases in gender isn't always loud, like I've mentioned before. It is not always loud. It often shows up in subtitle ways. Who gets invited to speak, whose ideas are amplified, and whose contributions are overlooked. So these are just patterns, shapes in workplaces that we see within the communities, and even the stories we tell about leadership. When we have these conversations around gender and understanding biases in gender representation means you recognize or recognizing that equality isn't just about numbers, which is something we need to know. It's about voices. That equality is not just about numbers, it's about voices. So it's about voices that influence and opportunities we create or that is being created. Conscious bias asks us to move beyond unconscious assumptions. And this is what this talk about, is about, you know, going into those classrooms and places of work and saying, let us move beyond unconscious assumptions. It is time to move beyond that and have a different conversation with ourselves, have a different conversation on what we see and how we see things. Um, you know, moving beyond and actively choosing fairness. It is challenging and it challenges us to ask, are we creating spaces? These are questions. Are we creating spaces where all genders are valued equally? Now, I've spoken about my own opinion on gender, that gender is assigned to us at birth, and that I recognize two genders, which is the gender that is assigned to us at birth, male or female. You can either be one of that or you're both. Because people are born, we've seen people being born with both. And they call it defeat. We give it different names. See it as abnormal, a defeat, or well, we give it those names, but we've seen it assigned to people at birth. So we recognize that, we're aware of that, just accepting the awareness, taking account for that, admitting that this happens. So challenging ourselves if we create those spaces where genders are valued equally. Are we dismantling stereotypes that limit potentials, either between the male or female? By bringing awareness to these questions, we begin to shift culture. Conscious bias is not about blame. That's not what this is about. It's about awareness and choice. It's about creating awareness of our biases and prejudice and making choices and taking decisions. It's about awareness and choice. What are the choices that you are making? And when we choose inclusion, we unlock innovation, creativities, and stronger community. So, this is the conversation. And today, as one of the things I want us to focus on is the conscious bias dialogue. So, when we are talking about the key aspects in conscious bias, we mentioned three key aspects that we're going to discuss: gender, race, and religion. So, our focus today is on the conscious bias dialogue. How do we create a dialogue between ourselves, in our community, in our schools? How do we start this conversation? So, conscious bias, which is a new frontiers of inclusive leaders, and that is where I want to stand as a new frontier of inclusive leader, and not misusing the word inclusive, because the word inclusive has been so misused that it's destroying everywhere today. When we talk about being inclusive is coming to a conversation. In this concept and context is about dialogue, is about hearing everybody's view, is about talking, is about holding on to the truth. And that's what this is about. So conscious bias is not about guilt. It is about awareness, like I said, it's about choice and creating a better future. When you have an opportunity to dialogue, you create a better future. So I'm going to just read it out as a quote from Susanna Olatunji Komolafe, which is a quote that I use frequently to, start the conversation on conscious bias. So saying conscious bias is not about guilt. I'm not coming in for you to start feeling guilty. It's about taking accountability, admitting, and it's about awareness, choice, and creating better future. So the way I phrase it is this: conscious bias is not about guilt. It's about awareness, choice, and creating better future. That is the quote from us. That's what it's about. It's about conscious. It's about creating better future. So get to meet myself for those of you that might just be joining this conversation for the first time. If you're just joining this conversation for the first time, and if you're watching us on LinkedIn or you're live with me on YouTube channel, wherever you are live with me, having this conversation instantly at this moment, meet the pioneer of conscious bias, which is myself, Susanna Olatunji Komolafe. In a world of unconscious bias, I've chosen to champion a powerful shift. Conscious bias. It is not about eliminating prejudice overnight. It's about bringing our hidden assumption into the light. It's about examining them with courage and choosing a more inclusive path intentionally, to be intentional about our choices, go back again to that phrase, choices. So what Susanna and wh- what I'm trying to do as a thought leader and a speaker and a strategist, what I'm trying to do with these ideology concept on conscious bias is to provide a framework and the language of transformation, transforming our workplace culture from the inside out, from the inside out. And this is what the whole um, most of the conversation is going to be around this. So this is what this is about. Um, so this is what this is about. Transforming our workplaces, our school, our environments from the inside out. As a pioneer of conscious barriers, I'm inspiring leaders and community to recognize hidden assumptions, all their hidden assumptions, and embrace inclusive practice. My work is to challenge us to move beyond. That is what my work is, and that is what I'm trying to pioneer and champion this concept of conscious bias is for us to move beyond unconscious pattern and build spaces where diversity thrives, really thrives. And I think this has been a challenge in this whole idea of diversity, equity, and inclusive. Why is it not thriving? And it's because we are not moving beyond unconscious bias and unconscious patterns and building spaces where diversity will thrive and inclusiveness will be clearly define what it means rather than us making everything about inclusive. Where is the limits? Because we are not putting limits, we're turning everything into inclusiveness. There's no limits, there's no stopping. It's just we just have to start having this clarity. So championing conscious bias incited a drive of awareness and inclusion and meaningful conversation. And that is why I call it um a dialogue, conscious bias dialogue, the dialogue. I strongly hope that this conversation which we which we are having will be very, very impactful to each one of us. It will be impactful in a way that we can really move beyond um, beyond our limitations in terms of what we are able to see and the things we are unable to see as well. If if we're clear on what what that means, if we're clear on what that means. So I am strongly hoping that we will this conversation will take us to a new realm. That this conversation will take us beyond what we think. That people will come, you guys out there watching and joining me on this journey together will be able to engage this conversation through your comments. You have my inbox. You can definitely send me your what you think on this about this intentional part to inclusive leadership, because this is what this is all about. Being intentional and creating a part of leadership. And um talking about gender, conscious bias requires us to really examine the gaps in representations. Who is in the room? This is a part of the conversation. After defining clearly what we feel or whatever our thoughts are on gender, then we need to start talking and asking these questions, examining the gaps in terms of representation. Who is in the room? Whose voices is heard? Whose ideas are championed? Moving beyond awareness to action, meaning intentionally, talk about creating an intentional path to leadership, creating spaces where all genders are equally represented. We have to get to that space, move to valued and empowered to lead. Empower to lead. How do we empower them to lead? How do we creates the spaces that clearly defines our role and what we hope to do with what we are hoping to do with what we have at hand. What is it that you're hoping to do with that? You know, how are you defining your intentionality in terms of leadership? How are you defining it? What's role are you playing to make to have that clear definition in terms of being impactful? So, what is it that you're doing to see that clear divinity in terms of the way we talk? When you join this conversation, are you calling to action? And when you call to action, whose voices are you bringing onto the table? Who are you listening to? Who is it that you're giving audience to in your conversation? Who are the people you're giving audience to in your conversation? Who are the voices in your room when you talk? Who do you bring on board? Uh, who are you giving um, who are you giving that platform to? Who are we sharing our platform with? These are important questions that needs to be answered um, when we call to action for engagement, when we create conversations on gender representations. So, these are questions. What does it meaningful mean that gender representations look like in leadership? How can we consciously interpret the likability bias that often hold women back or men back? So when we're saying gender, both gender, what is it that holds them back? What is it that they are at disadvantage at? Share with us examples of conscious actions you have taken to ensure a colleague of a different gender were heard and credited in your places of work. What actions are you taking? So I'm trying to create a framework to build consciousness, to be your conscious, equitable organization taking responsibility and accountability, admitting what step they are taking, which voices they are hearing, and to be part of a solution that I'm hoping that as I start this conversation, it will generate. So I am strongly of the opinion, I should say, I'm strongly of the opinion that we we will be every one of us will become part of this solution. Every one of us will uh, choose to take responsibility to be part of this solution. So it won't just be something that we talk about. It will be something that is actionable, and that it becomes an actionable um, thing that we are doing. So I'm going to put in the comment space if anyone wants to join me live. There's a link there you can use to join me live when I'm on live. And if you are not with us live while this is going on and you want to contribute, you can send me an email. I'll put the email there. Just check in the comment space wherever you are watching us. You can also request for it if you can't see it, but if you check through the comment space there, it should be there. I'm going to feature this on the screen. You can see it. You can send your email to adcenter at um 25 adcenter25 at yahoo.ie. You can send me, or you can just put your comments. Put your comment directly on the comment space. Put your comments in the comment space, and I'll pick it up. I will respond to it. If I'm unable to respond to it right now, I will definitely respond to it. Someone is calling to, sorry for that. Yeah, I guess someone is calling to join on the conversation, or you can. I think I'm just going to take, if I can bring you into the studio, or I can as well. Um, I can as well, you send me your test, just your questions, and I can pick up your questions and I'll answer it. If I can answer it when I'm on live, I will definitely come back to it and um, address it. This conversation is for every one of us, and I'm hoping that we can all, in our own little way, contribute to this conversation. Um, in our own way, we can contribute this conversation and join together to be part of this journey in this whole, be part of this journey together with me. So we are going to briefly, we're going to continue on the aspects of the conscious bias. We're going to talk about race, and we are also going to go further to also talk about um, so we're also going to go further to talk about religion, and these are all the three things we are going to touch on briefly when it comes to the key aspects of conscious bias. The small things to really conversation that we will talk about, but we will take these all these step at a time as we create this, generate this conversation and keep this conversation going between us. So while I take a break and just have a glass of water just to take a break, and the conversation will continue. I'm your host, Susuana Olatunji Komolafe, championing the concept and ideology around conscious bias. And I hope this is something you've taken from today's conversation, and where you can join me as I progress on this journey with you all. There's so many things for us to dabble into as we do this conversation. We're taking it step by step, and I'm actively believing that we will all be part of the whole story. So, like I said, I'm championing the conscious bias, an insight from myself, trying to drive awareness, inclusion, and meaningful conversation around this. You can watch these on your LinkedIn. You can join me on LinkedIn. You can also watch these on your YouTube channel. So right now, this is featuring today on two channel is hosting it today, which is your LinkedIn, and your YouTube channel as well. So let us dream.